Olympus Corporation. What is Olympus Scandal? Let me brief you shortly what is Olympus Scandal. It was a major corporate fraud that came to light in 2011. Executives at Olympus Corporation, a Japanese optic and camera company, were found to have covered up over $1.7 billion in investment losses over more than a decade. The scandal was exposed by the company's then CEO, who is Michael Woodford, who was fired after questioning suspicious accounting practices. It became one of Japan's biggest corporate scandal, where highlighting issues of corporate governance and transparency in Japanese. Company's background. It was founded in 1990 and the headquarters was placed in Hachioji, Tokyo. The production was begun with microscopes and also thermometers. It involves into optic and reprographic, which includes cameras and also medical equipment. It dominates the global endoscope market with a 70% of share, which worth of $2.5 billion. Next, we will be looking at the key individual who involved in the scandal. First, former chairman and president who known as Tsuyoshi Kikukawa. He is the key figure in concealing losses. Second, the former executive VP who known as Hisashi Mori. He involved in hiding financial losses. Third, the former auditor who is Hideo Yamada, who helped coordinate the cover-up. Finally, appointed CEO in 2019 who exposed the fraud after the internal investigation, who known as Michael Woodford. Let's get into the chronology of the event. The roots of the Olympus scandal stretch back to late 1980s and early of 1990s. During Japan's economic bubble, like many Japanese companies at the time, Olympus invested heavily in speculative financial instruments. When the bubble burst, Olympus was left with significant unrealized losses. Instead of disclosing these losses, the company began a long-term effort to conceal them through a process known as tobashi. It is an illegal accounting maneuver where losses are temporarily hidden off the balance sheet. By the mid-20s, Olympus had accumulated a substantial amount of hidden losses. To eventually clean up its balance sheet without drawing scrutiny, the company began making a series of suspicious accusations between 2006 and 2008, where Olympus purchased several obscure companies, often at grossly inflated prices, and paid enormous advisory fee to little-known firms. The most egregious example was the 2008 accusation of the British medical equipment company Grish Group for $2.2 billion. It was during which Olympus paid $680 million in advisory fee, nearly a third of the purchase price, to a Cayman Island-based entity called Access. These payments raised red flags. In April 2011, Michael Woodford, a British executive and also 30-year-old Olympus veteran, was promoted to president and CEO, who was the first non-Japanese person to lead the company. Shortly after assuming the role, Woodford began investigating the suspicious payments and also accusations, uncovering the irregularities. He repeatedly questioned the board and demanded an independent investigation, but was met with resistance. On October 14, 2011, only 2 weeks after he became CEO, Woodford was abruptly dismissed by the board. Olympus initially claimed the dismissal was due to cultural differences, but Woodford went public with the allegation. He provided documents to financial regulators and the press, triggering a global media storm. Under mounting pressure, Olympus admitted in November 2011 that it had used M&A deals to cover up approximately $1.7 million in losses. The revelation shocked investor confidence and led to a sharp drop in the company's share price, nearly 75% at its lowest point. Japanese authorities, including the Tokyo District Public Prosecutor's Office and the Securities and Exchange Surveillance Commission, will launch investigation. In February 2012, several former executives, including the chairman, executive vice president, and internal auditor, were arrested and later indicted for financial misconduct and falsifying securities report. In July 2013, the three executives received suspended prison sentence ranging from 3 to 4 years as they were found guilty but spared actually prison time due to cooperation and contrition. Olympus was fined $7 million. Additionally, in 2019, a Tokyo court ruled in favor of a shareholder derivative lawsuit ordering Kikuwa, Yamada, and Mori to pay $594 million in damage to the company, were one of the largest such awards in Japanese legal history. Olympus underwent significant restructuring after the scandal. 19 executives were resigned and the company appointed more independent directors to its board. Despite the damage, Olympus ultimately survived the scandal, thanks in large part to its dominance in the medical endoscopy market. Michael Woodford, though vindicated, declined to return as CEO but received a €10 million settlement for wrongful dismissal and defamation. The Olympus Scandal remains a landmark case in corporate governance. Look at the aftermath and consequences. So, from the chronology, we know what had happened. The scandal also had an human and organizational consequences, where thousands of employees were affected, with Olympus later announcing a plan to cut 2,700 jobs and shut down around 40% of its manufacturing facilities by 2050. Investors, including major shareholders such as Mitsubishi and Nippon Life, were forced to reassess their position, and Olympus faced class action lawsuits from foreign and also domestic investors. Meanwhile, Michael Woodford, the whistleblower and former CEO, did not return to Olympus but received a €10 million settlement for wrongful dismissal and defamation. At a broader level, the scandal received as a wake-up call from Japan, promoting calls for stronger corporate governance, increased transparency, and better protection for whistleblowers. The incident underscored how cultural factors such as excessive deference to authority and aversion to confrontation can foster environments where wrongdoing goes unchecked. In response, Japanese regulators and business will begin to push for reforms aimed at improving accountability in corporate management. While Olympus eventually recovered largely due to its dominant position in global medical endoscope market, the scandal remains a stark reminder of the potential cost of corporate deceit and critical importance of ethical leadership and oversight.
Stakeholders and victims. The shareholders suffer significant financial losses due to stock price collapse. Next, the employee. The first job insecurity, Olympus cut 2,700 jobs and closed 40% of its manufacturing plants by 2015. The result, the investor, the major stakeholder, like Nippon Life and Mitsubishi, reduced their holdings amid uncertainty. And the regulators, Japanese Financial Authority, face criticism for oversight failures. Lessons learned in Olympus Scandal. First is, transparency is crucial. This is because the scandal underscores the importance of clear financial reporting and transparency to prevent financial ruin and reputational damage. Second is whistleblower protection. Michael Woodford rules highlight the need for companies to protect and encourage whistleblowers to report unethical behavior. Third is effective corporate governance. The case demonstrates the dangers of inadequate oversight and the necessity for robust governance structures. Fourth is cultural factors matter. Olympus corporate culture, emphasizing loyalty and hierarchy, contributed to the prolonged concealment of fraud. And lastly is global implications. The scandal prompts international scrutiny of corporate practice and leads to calls for reforms in Japan corporate governance. The conclusion is the Olympus scandal served as a cautionary tale about the perils of corporate misconduct and the vital role of transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership in maintaining stakeholder trust. It powerfully illustrated that a lack of integrity can not only devastate a company's financial standing, but also irrevocably shatter the fate of investors, employees, and the public alike. For any corporation aiming for long-term success and legitimacy, the message from Olympus is unequivocally clear. Ethical governance is not merely a preference, but an absolute necessity.